Geppetto, Jiminy, Honest John, the Coachman, the Blue Fairy, Stromboli, and the Boy of the Hour, Pinocchio. They are all here in the latest trailer for Disney Plus's upcoming live-action adaptation of Pinocchio. In this video, I'll break down the trailer and pull apart all the exciting Easter eggs within. Before we do, don't forget to join the conversation in the comments and let me know your favourite moments from the trailer. After what seems like forever, Disney has finally given us our first proper look at Pinocchio, following an incredibly impressive teaser trailer that left much to be desired. Most notably, this new trailer quite literally opens with a shot of Pinocchio, who was entirely missing from the first trailer altogether. In this opening shot, Pinocchio sits atop the workbench of Geppetto in a shot entirely reminiscent of the original animated film. Very next thing we see is a brief shot of Jiminy Cricket walking towards Geppetto's house, with a full moon creating a spectacular atmosphere. Geppetto then marvels over his new creation in the following shot and is then seen walking the wooden marionette Pinocchio through his abode as Jiminy watches on. At first, this trailer seems to be another teaser, giving us but small glimpses of moments that all take place within the film's opening moments. But it's a great way to start because immediately we're thrown into this world head first into our nostalgic memories of the beloved original movie. With the open arm of Stromboli, the trailer kicks into high gear, overloading us with essentially everything we've wanted to see from the movie so far. Again, most predominantly, a ton of moments with Pinocchio himself. Of course, we got our very first look at the new CG Pinocchio a few days ago by way of a Disney Plus Day advertisement, but this trailer offers up an enormous serving of new footage featuring the character. The most noticeable thing here is just how similar the character looks to his 1940 counterpart, and while some may complain about why bother doing it again if it's just the exact same thing, I think this design is perfect. We have to remember that Pinocchio is a character and a book that is in public domain, which means anyone can make a Pinocchio movie. In fact, Guillermo del Toro has his very own version coming out on Netflix later this year, which also looks fantastic. Disney, as a brand, has to be protective of their IP, and in this movie is bringing us their iconic version of Pinocchio. Move too far away from that and it just becomes any generic old Pinocchio movie. So yeah, I'm really loving how this little guy looks. We also get to hear Pinocchio speak for the first time, with some small pieces of dialogue from newcomer Benjamin Evan Ainsworth.
Hello, Pops!
Again, I think Ainsworth does a very good job with Pinocchio here. Jiminy Cricket gets his time to shine here as well, and while his design is a little more realistic than the animated version, taking the form of an actual cricket and not just a generic green little man, his voice performance by way of Joseph Gordon-Levitt sounds very in line with the original movie.
Jumping jeepers! Pinocchio is running around loose without a conscience? Can you imagine the trouble he's gonna get into?
In fact, this trailer just goes to show almost how exactly the same this new version of Pinocchio is going to be, with many sequences quite literally ripped shot for shot from the original. This is where I begin to have a little trepidation. I've said dozens of times in the past that my favourite Disney remakes are the ones that take small divergences from source, do things a little different, add things to make the story larger and wider, a little extra pizzazz. And while that may sound a little contradictory to what I said about Pinocchio's design, I think we need to look at character designs and narratives as two separate elements. Character designs need to stay iconic and recognizable, while the story, the narrative, should be given new liberties, or else what is the point? That said, we get plenty of recognizable moments in this trailer. Quite literally every iconic scene from the movie is featured here in some way. The transformation from inanimate puppet to living puppet, which is given some added pizzazz in this version, Geppetto waking to find Pinocchio alive and dancing with him around the house, Honest John and Gideon bailing Pinocchio up in the street, Pinocchio taking part against his will in Stromboli's circus and later being abused by him, Geppetto on the hunt for Pinocchio in the pouring rain, Pinocchio with the Coachman on the way to Pleasure Island, Pinocchio on Pleasure Island, and of course the climactic scene inside the mouth of a whale. In fact, this trailer basically serves as a recap of the entire movie. If you hadn't seen the original, I'd feel very worried that you would be spoiled by this. Of course, the trailer does show us quite a bit of new stuff as well, which does make me feel a little bit better. We have a brand new character in Sofia the Seagull, who's being voiced by Lorraine Bracco. It's going to be very interesting to see what role she has to play in this new version, since all of the seagulls in the original version were incredibly antagonistic. We also have a new marionette girl. While the original movie did have marionette girls in Stromboli's show, it didn't have a ballerina. It appears this ballerina girl is set to have a much wider role, with numerous appearances in the trailer. It also appears that she'll be forming a pretty strong bond with Pinocchio. She also appears to maybe have a real-life counterpart, just like Pinocchio too. I'm very excited to see what they do with this character. It also appears that the Pleasure Island sequence is getting a big expansion as well. Not only is the world bigger and more elaborate, with crazy fireworks surrounding the dreaded island, but we get what is seemingly a madcap boat chase sequence with Pinocchio and the other hostage children, who sadly we actually don't get to see transform into donkeys here. That's certainly one of the creepiest things about the original movie, and many have wondered if it will actually make the cut in the new one. The original one also included sequences with the children lighting up some smokes, something that's absolutely going to have to be thrown out here. It looks like in its place we are going to be getting some big action set pieces, so again, very keen to see how these shape up, and hopefully they add something spectacular to the story. Speaking of creepy, many have wondered if this remake would be as creepy as the original, and judging by the trailer, it certainly seems it will be, and maybe even more so. The overall vibe of this feels creepy as all heck, and if I may say so, I think the versions of the characters here are perhaps even creepier than the animated versions. Honest John appears to be a super creeper who you would not want to bump into in an alleyway. Stromboli is even more menacing and violent in live action, while the Coachman appears to be a literal derelict serial killer from the Victorian age. This is probably what I'm looking forward to most in this, a non-saccharine, non-watered down version of this story. The creepiness is so inherent to Pinocchio that it just wouldn't seem the same without it. So for now, I'm very excited to check this one out. It looks absolutely superb on all fronts. I'm loving the character iterations, the special effects look first class, unlike many Disney movies recently, and I think the take on the story overall looks very good. I will, however, remain slightly cautious, hoping that there's some new stuff in here that makes this an absolute worthwhile remake. If there is, this could shape up to be one of the best ever. My biggest concern is that the movie is going to be held hostage on a streaming service instead of getting a theatrical release and perhaps a physical release that it so seemingly deserves. And at that, I am throwing it over to you. I want to know, what are your thoughts on the Pinocchio trailer? Are you loving it, hating it, cautiously optimistic like me? Fire away with those thoughts down in the comments below. If you'd like to see even more Pinocchio content from me, you can catch my side-by-side trailer comparison linked on your screen. Thanks for watching.